So you see all these different YouTubers with their setups and everything, and you're kind of looking at it either wondering how you can up your own setup or just hesitating on even making videos itself because you kind of don't know what setup you want to make for your own channel. Well, today I'm showing you how I do it and how you can do it on a budget. What is going on, everybody? My name is Finn Badgley. If you're new around here, I'm a commercial fashion and portrait photographer, and today I'm showing you a very budget-friendly YouTube studio setup. Now, this setup is something that I use for a lot of my own videos and something that you can definitely set up for your own. Now, this is something that is very portable, very minimal, on a budget, and can work for small spaces. So behind me is my main kind of office space, the main desk that I find myself working at and editing the majority of the time. This just serves as something nice and pleasing in the background to not distract too much, just have something going on. Now, the camera that I shoot all of these videos on is the Canon EOS R, and I usually am using the 85mm 1.8 lens, and I have it usually pretty much wide open at 1.8, if not sometimes stop down to about 2.2. This is just to have a nice blurry depth of field in the background and not have too much distraction going on back there. Now, this is definitely the least budget-friendly part of all this, but you can use kind of whatever camera you have available to you, even if it is something like an iPhone, and I just have it set up on a tripod far enough away so I'm in frame nicely. And you'll notice I usually am using a lavalier microphone. This one, the camera is close enough, I just have it wired and I don't find it too much of an issue. If the camera was farther away or anything like that, I may get into using a wireless lav system, but it's never caused me any issues and I'm pretty happy with it. Now, over to lighting. We have a couple main lights going on in this setup that you'll notice. In the background, I have a practical light that sometimes is shown and sometimes isn't. And it is currently right behind me and is a little neon sign. And that is just to sometimes give a little visual interest that I can move around depending on how I want the angle. Now, my background light is right over here. It is a Aperture M9, and because for my own personal channel, I like to use that kind of teal color scheme. I just love that color. I didn't really want to use the included gels with it, and because the light is an RGB, I have a lot of gels already from my use of photography and filmmaking that I just cut a little piece of that teal and put it on that light. Now, the key light that's lighting me currently and lighting a bit of the background whenever this guy isn't on, it's just turned off for the moment to show you the difference here. And now it is back on, so that just gives you a bit of visual interest in the background and also kind of helps identify the brand a little bit with that teal color in there. That's something you guys can do, is put your own color gels on it, or if you have an RGB light, you can just dial it in and not even have to worry about gels or anything like that. Now, for my key light, I am just using a Neewer, I think that's how you pronounce it, Neewer. Does anybody know how to pronounce this? Because I don't know. Anyways, it's a fairly inexpensive light panel, and I just have it slightly tilted up towards the ceiling, so that way it's not completely direct on me. It kind of fills in the space just enough, but it is also still mainly lighting me, and I get a nice catch light in the eyes. It's actually exactly an arm's length away from me. I can pull it in right here and you can see that. This is a relatively inexpensive light panel that you can find on Amazon or other various places, and it is bicolor, so you can change it from daylight or tungsten depending on what setup you're going for. Myself, I usually have it set to tungsten, and that is just because for me, I've developed a color grading workflow that I like the teal to come out a little more prominent, and I developed my own LUT that I usually color grade all my footage with. If you guys want me to go in depth with that in another video, let me know down in the comments below, and I may just do that in the future, in which case subscribe so you don't miss that when it goes live. Now, with that said, this light, I like having it on tungsten like that just because my LUT works better for that. I could obviously adjust the color temperature and everything after the fact, but I don't really want to get into that too much. I would like to try to play with the footage as little as I can to make sure it holds up the best it can. Now that said, I also put a little bit of extra diffusion on the light panel just so that way it is nice and soft and flattering, especially since you're shooting human subjects. It'll fall off the face nice and just give you a more pleasing shot. You can look through some of my past videos and kind of see the evolution of how this setup has developed. Even though I only have been doing this a couple months, it has definitely changed and it looks a lot better now, in my personal opinion, than my earlier videos. If you want, you can check those out. Come back here and let me know your thoughts. I see quite a bit of a difference, especially because a little bit ago I looked back on some of my old videos and noticed a lot more of a difference than I thought I would. This is a fairly simple setup that I've kind of created and adjusted as I've needed to, and it works very well for me with pretty much no problems whatsoever. My camera I do have set up on a tripod, and sometimes whenever I'm vlogging or on the go, I will use the Rode Video Micro on top of the camera. I just really like it because I don't need to worry about batteries or anything like that. It is a small, compact microphone that I don't really need to worry too much about, and like everything else, is very budget friendly. Now that said, all the companies, everything for the equipment that I am using here, I'm not sponsored by anybody. This is just what I found worked for me in this setup, and I use what I use. Now, if you like all of these, go off, do your own thing, but I am not paid by anybody to tell you what I am using here. And that said, I have been thinking about upgrading some of this equipment in the future just to kind of level up everything a little bit more, but currently it works for me just fine. And I think a similar setup would work very well for you, especially when you are just starting out. These things you can all put together on a budget that don't cost a ton, and it doesn't take a lot of time to set everything up and take it down, which is also a very large benefit, especially if you're working in a small space. You don't have to worry about putting lights up and taking them down and having to wrestle with things quite as much. It's fairly a simple setup and a fairly simple takedown. So I hope this was helpful. I hope you kind of got some insight and some ideas of how to level up your own YouTube studio and do it on a budget. I'm all about trying to create the best possible product while spending the least amount I can. And I do have more tips like this, so if you'd like to see those, comment down below and subscribe so that way you see them when they go live. Now, with all of that said, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you gained some value out of it that you can put into your own videos. And if you did, drop a like, leave a comment if you liked this kind of thing. If you want to see more videos like this from me in the future, subscribe if you have not already. Hit the bell to be notified when I post new videos. And as always, I will see you on the next one.